In this video, we're going to talk about the most terrifying Native American tribes that history tried to forget. These weren't just warriors. They were masters of psychological warfare, brutal tactics, and survival strategies so effective that they held back entire empires for decades. The Comanche halted Spanish expansion for 50 years. The Iroquois earned the name Rattlesnake for their silent, deadly strikes. And the Apache, they were called the tigers of the human race for good reason. By the end of this video, you'll understand why these three tribes were feared above all others, and why their enemies would rather face death than fall into their hands.
While many Native American tribes were powerful in their own right, three tribes stand out among the others as particularly feared for their unmatched ferocity. These indigenous people would tear through anything that tried to stand in their way, not just like tissue paper, but in the most gruesome way possible.
The Comanche, Lords of the Plains. Just hearing the name of this tribe was enough to instill fear, even among other native tribes. Popularly known as the Lords of the Plains, their name comes from the Ute word Comanche, meaning anyone who wants to fight me all the time, or simply, enemy.
Origins and the Horse Revolution. The Comanche's roots trace back to the Shoshone tribe, who lived in the western United States in a region known as the Great Basin. Anthropological evidence reveals similarities between these tribes, including their language and general way of life. Their language belongs to the Uto-Aztecan linguistic family, which includes various Native American languages across the western United States. When European settlers, particularly the Spanish, introduced horses to North America in the 16th century, these animals gradually spread among indigenous tribes. The Comanche engaged in trade with neighboring tribes, such as the Spanish-influenced Pueblo people or other plains tribes that already possessed horses. Through these trade networks, the Comanche obtained horses by exchanging goods like buffalo hides, captives, or other resources. With their newfound method of mobility, they rapidly grew to become the most skilled horsemen on the continent. The acquisition of horses facilitated a remarkable expansion of Comanche territory. No longer confined to their mountainous homeland and the vicinity of their Shoshone neighbors, the Comanche ventured onto the expansive plains of eastern Colorado and western Kansas. This migration was driven by the abundance of buffalo on the plains, providing them with a valuable resource for sustenance and trade.
Masters of horsemanship. The Comanche were absolutely unmatched in horsemanship. Children learned to ride from a young age, and both men and women developed remarkable equestrian abilities, showcasing their prowess with horses. One important thing to note about the Comanche is that they had a special knack for catching and training wild horses. Once they spotted a wild horse, they would swiftly swerve a rope around the horse's neck to capture it. Once secured, they would choke it until it fainted from exhaustion. Then the captor would move swiftly toward the horse, blow carefully into its nose, and bring it back to consciousness. They'd clean up the horse by removing wild hairs around its eyes, then fit it with a headstall, special horse gear to control it. The wild horse would be paired with a calm mare, forming a bond and familiarizing it with human presence. After a few days, the horse was set free but stayed close to the mare, shadowing her movements. When it was time to ride, the handler would guide the horse into deep water or creek with a sandy bottom. This helped reduce the horse's resistance and soften the landing if it managed to buck off its rider. William Blakemore, an Englishman who spent 8 years with the tribe, provided this depiction. On foot, slow and awkward, but on horseback, graceful. They are the most expert and daring riders in the world. In battle, they sweep down upon their enemies with terrific yells, concealing their whole body except 1 foot behind their horses, discharging bullets or arrows over and under the animals' necks with deadly accuracy. Each Comanche had a favorite warhorse, which they regarded with great affection and only mounted when going into battle. Even the women were fearless riders, lassoing antelope and hunting buffalo. Unstoppable warriors. The Comanche grew quickly and greatly, gaining ground as a tribe that was formidable in the art of war. They were madly tenacious and extremely violent with their enemies. After Spain acquired Louisiana from France, Spanish soldiers reported how unparalleled the Comanche were at riding horses and seemingly fearless in the face of war. The Comanche didn't make deals for peace easily. They were bold and tough. Many European settlers were killed by the Comanche, making the French, Spanish, and Americans think it was nearly impossible to take their land. The Comanche were so ferocious that they single-handedly halted Spanish expansion for nearly 50 years. General James Wilkinson of the United States described the Comanche as the most formidable indigenous group on the continent.
The Comanche Moon. Initially labeled as horse thieves, the Comanche gained a fearsome reputation through their ruthless raids, which were so intense that northern Spanish and Mexican settlers referred to them as the Comanche Moon. In these brutal nighttime assaults, hundreds of Comanche on horseback would invade Mexican settlements, massacring men, abducting women, and stealing horses. When European settlers crossed their lands, the Comanche would attack, steal their horses, and later sell them to the Spanish-Mexican Empire or the Americans. Despite being estimated at around 40,000 individuals, each Comanche person was said to own 2 to 3 horses. In their culture, young braves had to establish their status through frequent raids, showcasing their ability to kill and steal. This was the sole route to gaining prestige, wealth, and respect within their families and bands.
Torture and terror. Comanche women were known for their skilled and merciless torture methods inflicted upon captives. Once at the mercy of a Comanche woman, enemies would pray earnestly for death. S.E. Gwynn, author of Empire of the Summer Moon, wrote, "No other tribe in the history of Spanish, French, Mexican, Texan, and American presence in the region inflicted such widespread havoc and death. There isn't even a close second." Gwynn vividly describes the demonic brutality of Comanche attacks on white settlers, where torture, killings, and gang rapes were routine practices. The grim logic behind Comanche raids was clear. All men were killed, captives were tortured, women were gang raped, and babies were killed.
The Parker Massacre. T.R. Fehrenbach, author of Comanche, The History of a People, recounts a tragic incident involving the Parker family, early settlers at Fort Parker in 1836. Around 100 Comanche warriors on horseback approached the fort. One warrior waved a white flag to deceive the Parkers. Fehrenbach details how Benjamin Parker stepped outside the fort to parley with the Comanche, only to be surrounded and speared by their lances. The Comanche charged the fort with loud war cries. The 2 Frosts, father and son, were killed before the women. John Parker was brutally mutilated, scalped, and left for dead. Granny Parker was impaled to the ground with a lance and endured unspeakable assaults.
Methods of torture. The Comanche were notorious for torturing captives, including American and Mexican soldiers. Some were roasted alive over open fires. Others were castrated and scalped while still conscious. One particularly gruesome method involved burying captives up to their chins, cutting off their eyelids, and exposing their eyes to the burning sun until they starved to death. Historical accounts tell of Comanches staking naked male captives over red ant beds, sometimes after cutting off their private parts, stuffing them into their mouths, and sewing their lips together. In another cruel tactic, captives were sewn into untreated leather and left in the sun. As the leather dried and tightened, it slowly suffocated the prisoner. According to Fehrenbach, a Spanish account reveals that the Comanche tortured Tonkawa Indian captives by burning their hands and feet until the nerves were destroyed, amputating these extremities, and then repeating the fire treatment on fresh wounds. The Tonkawas, scalped alive, also had their tongues torn out to silence their screams.
Before we reveal the next deadliest tribe, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
The Iroquois Confederacy, the Rattlesnakes. The Iroquois Confederacy, also known as the Haudenosaunee, or Six Nations, is another powerful example of indigenous political and social organization in North America.
Origins and structure. The roots of this formidable alliance trace back to the collaboration of distinct tribes, the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca. The Mohawks, situated to the east, were known for their strategic location and interactions with early European settlers. The Oneida, with roots in the Great Lakes region. The Onondaga, positioned in central New York, added to the Confederacy's diversity. The Cayuga and Seneca, residing to the west and south respectively, further strengthened this alliance with their unique contributions. Why rattlesnake? Interestingly, the name Iroquois wasn't originally from this confederacy, but was given by the Algonquin, well-known enemies of the Haudenosaunee. They were often referred to as Iroquois, a name meaning rattlesnake. Why such a name? Simply put, the Iroquois were masters at silently approaching their enemies and delivering not just the swiftest but also the most lethal blows. Before their enemies could even react, many able-bodied warriors would have already fallen.
Warriors from birth. The Iroquois were known for their strong and assertive nature, frequently expanding their territory by raiding neighboring tribes. They easily struck fear into the hearts of many, defeating countless Native American tribes. Among those heavily impacted by their raids were the Huron, Erie, and Susquehannock. From a young age, Iroquois' youth underwent military training, perfecting their skills with bows, arrows, spears, and clubs. During their adolescent years, they joined raids against rival Native American groups and, on occasion, white settlers. This early exposure to warfare shaped them into fierce fighters who fought without hesitation, driven solely by the desire for victory. Demonstrating military prowess not only earned individuals respect, but also opened the path to becoming a war chief. Running the gauntlet. One particularly grim aspect of Iroquois warfare was their treatment of prisoners. Captives were often subjected to the harrowing ordeal of running the gauntlet, a fearsome ritual where they had to sprint between two lines of Iroquois warriors armed with thorny sticks and branches, enduring physical punishment. This practice underscored the intensity of intertribal conflicts and the strict military culture within Iroquois society.
The Beaver Wars and expansion. The Beaver Wars, which spanned the 17th century, were a brutal period for the Iroquois Confederacy as they engaged in conflicts aimed at expanding their territory. One of their notable conquests was the subjugation of the Susquehannock in what is now Pennsylvania. Additionally, the Iroquois significantly weakened the Huron people around the Great Lakes, further consolidating their influence in the region. By the early 1700s, at the peak of their power, the Iroquois controlled vast territories stretching from the western lands of Illinois to the northern reaches of Michigan and southward to the hills of Tennessee.
The power of unity. What set the Iroquois Confederacy apart was their extraordinary ability to maintain unity among the different nations within their confederation. This unity was especially evident during the French and Indian War, when all the Iroquois nations aligned with the British. As the Bible verse says, "And if one prevails against him, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken." Unity indeed builds a formidable nation.
The Apache, tigers of the human race. The Apache people are part of the southern branch of the Athabascan group. The languages of this group are spoken across a large family in Alaska, Western Canada, and the American Southwest. Different branches of the Apache tribes lived across a region that stretched from the Arkansas River to northern Mexico and from central Texas to central Arizona.
Survival against empires. The Apache not only survived but thrived, surrounded by powerful empires, successfully navigating challenges posed by the Spanish, Comanche, Ute, and American influences. Living in rugged, inhospitable terrain, the Apache became masters of mobile guerrilla warfare, armed with traditional bows and more modern rifles introduced by European powers. It is said that Apache warriors could fire multiple arrows in a single shot while expertly riding a horse.
Masters of stealth. The survival strategies of the Apache were deeply rooted in their exceptional skills in stealth and surprise, forming the foundation of their military prowess. They were, in simple terms, masters of hide and seek. This ability allowed them to execute sudden and unexpected strikes against their adversaries, catching them off guard and demoralizing them. Apache warriors, skilled in surprise attacks, would emerge swiftly from hiding, launch precise assaults, and retreat just as quickly into the terrain they knew so well. Lightning raids. One remarkable aspect of Apache warfare was their skill in raiding. They demonstrated an unparalleled ability to cover vast distances rapidly, whether on foot or horseback. This mobility, combined with their strategic expertise, enabled them to strike with precision and retreat before their enemies could recover from the shock. The Apache seamlessly integrated Spanish horses and steel weapons into their warfare tactics, showcasing their adaptability. They quickly learned to wield lances and knives with impressive speed, further enhancing their effectiveness in battle.
Physical prowess. General Crook's description of the Apaches as the tigers of the human race aptly captured the formidable nature of these warriors. Their ruggedness and physical prowess were such that they could outrun cavalry on foot, displaying an exceptional level of agility and endurance. In battle, Apaches exhibited remarkable skill in archery, releasing 7 arrows into the air before the first one even touched the ground, a testament to their quick and precise marksmanship. Cruelty without remorse. When it came to torturing captives, they did so without a hint of remorse. Enemies were skinned and burned alive, and the children of their foes met a grim fate, their heads smashed against walls.
Adding to their cruelty, they held in high regard anyone who could invent a new method of torturing captives.
Conclusion. To sum it all up, these 3 tribes will forever stand out as those who effortlessly instilled fear in the hearts of all their enemies. The Comanche, the Lords of the Plains, the Iroquois, the Rattlesnakes, and the Apache, the tigers of the human race.
Share your thoughts with us in the comments below, and if you haven't already, give us a thumbs up. Stick around for our latest updates by hitting the subscribe button. Thank you for watching.